Matt Kiefer, that's you? Okay, so I got this article on my desk. This was back in August, and it was on Grant Stewart. Solomon gave me the article. I don't read many articles. I don't read any. I read Pro Football Talk, sorry. But he gave me this article. It's been sitting on my desk since because I've been meaning to write you a letter and tell you this was an incredible article, a great story on a great dude, man. I got a chance to play against the guy this year and got a chance to talk to him after the game. It's really well written on a great story, and to me, what this game's all about, I love it, man. So nice job. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay.
Dan talked this week about just how important special teams are going to be in a game like this, being able to flip the field, and he's looking for a big play from special teams in some regard. Just when your head coach says that, how much do you revel in that challenge, and does that trickle down to your guys at all?
Yeah, for me, honestly, we're trying to help our team win a game every single week. So I see it differently than him. Not that it's not a challenge to us, and we're not trying to go out there and help our team, but I feel like we're trying to help our team every single week that we play the game. And I feel like we've done a very good job in a lot of areas in a lot of games. Obviously, we hope to go out there and make an impact, but I do know this: in playing the game, the most important thing you can do is go out there and execute. When you execute and you got 11 guys on the field, they're doing their job and doing it with everything they got, then you got a chance to make a play, and plays end up coming to you. And really, in games like this, in my experience, the best teams go out there and they have 11 guys execute at such a high level every play that when the opportunity presents itself, someone makes the play, and those end up being the difference in the game. So for us, the goal is to go out there and play great, have 11 guys execute, do their job with everything they got, and hopefully at some point the opportunity will present itself, and if that comes on special teams, then great. I know our guys will end up being ready and making a play. But yeah, I think it's hard to go chase a play is my point, and that's really when you end up getting in trouble and you try to make things happen. I think this game's all about execution. The teams that execute the best end up winning.
You brought him up a couple weeks ago, but Pat O'Connor had the biggest defensive role of his career. I was trying to look up what you're talking about. It might have been one of his biggest special teams roles of his career as well. 18 snaps, I'm sure he was gassed after the game, but how unique is it that you got a 300-pounder out there contributing on special teams in this era of those units, and what is he giving you?
Yeah, so the one thing I will say is, and I say this to people inside the building too, but sometimes, people look at play count and they say, man, this guy played a lot of plays. And it's like, yeah, he did. But by the way, 12 kickoffs and kickoff returns were touchbacks. And so they didn't move a whole lot on those 12. So then you're down to 6 field goal blocks, which is what he did for us in that game. And I'm not minimizing his role because, man, I love him. And to your point, I know he was gassed because he would come right off the field into the huddle for a kickoff return, and he'd be like, okay, I'm ready to go. And it's like, God dang, man, look at this guy. So you can't help but appreciate it. And I know that there's a mental tax too when you have a job description. So kick cover, kick return, even if the play didn't play out, there's a mental tax there and a tax during the week in practice, and I definitely recognize that. So anyways, but he's a badass. I mean, everyone loves the guy. He plays his tail off. I'm glad, he got to play a bunch of defense in that game, and all the coaches were raving about how he played on that side of the ball too. He's definitely helped us because we have covered some kicks, and he's been a major factor in doing that on our kickoff cover, and hopefully we'll see kickoff return thing too. He's done a great job for us there. Hopefully that'll come up in this game. Last game, these guys covered a handful of kicks against the Rams, so we're hoping to get some of those opportunities too.
I want to ask you about Mack Hollins. There were some clips of him walking into the stadium barefoot a couple weeks ago, and a lot of people were sharing some good stories. I know he was in your room in Philly as a rookie. Do you have any good Mack Hollins stories?
No, I don't have a ton. I know this. Obviously, I knew him well coming out. I think he was definitely our top special teams guy on the board. He was a wideout out of North Carolina. My guys at North Carolina. Out of North Carolina. And he was a great player. I know that every special teams coach probably had him as their top guy coming out. So he's a great player. He obviously played for us in Philly. He's a great dude. I'm really happy for him and the career he's had. You know, he's played for a handful of teams now. Last time we played against him, I believe he was in Atlanta, and he really gave us problems on the outside. As a gunner for us, their right gunner, which I'm assuming he's going to play against us this week. So I know our guys are excited for the challenge because he's got speed and size, and he plays a competitive brand of football, and he'll be a factor for us. We got to make sure we take care of him.
We asked you about the North Carolina thing. What do you think, when a team kicks off like they do for returns, what does that mean for you guys? How excited do you get since it's so rare now?
Yeah, you hope to get it. You know, it's like kind of for us in the last game, a lot of teams are kicking right on the edge of like, you know, and it's kind of like, well, why don't you return that? And obviously for us, like I always tell you guys, the team's the most important thing. I'd love to swing the bat every chance we got, but ultimately we're trying to win the game. And so hopefully we'll get some returnable balls, the ball in play. I know our guys like to return them. They like to compete on the play. But ultimately, as the return team, you don't really dictate that. It depends on really the ball that they give you. So hopefully we'll get the opportunity this week. This team we're playing against has done a few different things. You know, they play Kansas City and Indianapolis, and they didn't have any returnable kicks. And then they come back indoors or semi-indoors in L.A., and they had 3 of them returned. So hopefully we'll get them.
You guys have made a couple last-second field goals this season, and we've seen across the league a couple block kicks in those instances. So I'm just kind of curious if you have a specific, like, is the message different in the huddle right before or on the sidelines right before those kicks?
Yeah, I would treat that kind of similar to the trying to go make a play thing. I hope we're playing our best every single play we're out there. And that includes field goal protection. So, you know, I hope we wouldn't treat one play differently than another because they're all important. But I do think that you bring up a legitimate point, and I think people don't realize, like I said to the guys this morning, actually, like that 1.3 seconds might be the hardest 1.3 seconds in a game of football when you're talking about a game-winning kick on the line, the strain. I mean, the job is mentally pretty simple in field goal protection, but physically it's 1.3 seconds of everything you got to try to strain and keep that opponent from getting there. And I think what can happen inside buildings is you get spoiled, and you guys go out there and they do a great job, and you feel like, oh yeah, well that will never happen to us, or you know, well you don't realize like it happens. It's happened to a lot of teams around the league. So really for me, like, I don't take that for granted. The effort and what those guys do in protection, the operation, the snap, the hold, the kick, the timing, you know. It's all important. It's like I told our players, everything, the alignment, where their jab foot is, where their hinge foot is, the depth of that foot, you know, everything adds up, and it shows up in those moments. And if you get it right, then you end up being successful. So those guys have done a great job in protection all year long, and sometimes you don't realize it until you don't know what you had until you lose it, you know, sometimes. So I feel like those guys have done a great job. Really appreciate and respect the job that they've done.
Amount of kicks blocked in the game-winning situations, or do we just notice them more because of the magnitude of the moment? Are teams deploying like their best rushes or taking more chances? What's happening in those situations?
It is a good question. I mean, so I think one thing that's kind of happening around the league, it started off this season early in the year. So a year ago, you're not allowed to hit the long snapper in the head or neck area, which define that. No one knows really what that is. Area is a big area or a small one. Or so anyway, over the last couple of years, nobody would rush the A gap, and they would stay away from it because 15-yard personal foul, automatic first down. And then what happened is the league sends out tapes throughout the course of the year, and they give kind of interpretations on plays and whatnot. And there was a play early in the season. It was Dallas and New Orleans. And I believe it was New Orleans was rushing the field goal of Dallas. And there was a lot of contact on the snapper on the play, and the league kind of clarified the play and said that the level of contact that was there was not egregious enough to warrant a flag. Well, so then all of a sudden it was like, okay, here we go. You know, we can heat up the A-gaps. They're not going to throw a flag. And so then they really didn't. And then now it's like, then comes the Chicago Bears Green Bay one. And I think there's two different sides of that. You hear some people say a flag should have been thrown. Some people say no flag should have been thrown. But ultimately, they're not throwing the flags on those plays, so you're seeing more contact. So a lot of these blocks have happened in the A-gap where there hasn't been as much of a rush in the last few years. I also kind of related a little bit to, like, I always say to the players, you can't tell me what the rule book says. The rule book says you can't hold, but you can hold. You just can't hold if the guy's outside the framework of your body, if there's restriction at the point of attack, he's trying to get away from you. If you take him down the ground, they're going to throw a flag. But you can hold him as long as your hands are inside and your feet are in front of him. So, like, what the rule book says doesn't matter. It's really what they officiate. And so it's the same with all these plays. So it's like, yeah, you can't have direct contact to the snapper in the head or neck area, but if it's his hip, it's okay. If it's his thigh board, it's fine. If it's his shoulder, is that what's warranting the flag? Well, right now, nothing's warranting the flag, or nothing has. So ultimately, you're seeing people heat up the A-gaps. So you have to coach to what's being played out there or what's being allowed to be played. But it's a fine line, because if you're the team who lets it rip in the A-gap and then on the game winner and gets the flag called on you, obviously it could cost you the game. On the flip side, I also think what's going on is it's kind of like those Hail Mary plays. You don't see many flags on those things, right? Well, I feel like that last second field goal is starting to turn into that, where it's like, hey, we're going to let them play unless it's like totally egregious. So you just always are adapting. As a coach in this league, you're always adapting to kind of how they're calling the game and how they want the game to play out. And I'm definitely not critiquing or criticizing. This is just the reality of our shoes as coaches. You're trying to adapt to how they officiate or call the game or how the league wants it.
Any thoughts on Belichick in North Carolina?
Yeah, I'm pumped for him, man. You guys all know, I don't know Belichick, but I love him. As my kids say, it's my man crush. I don't even know what that is. It doesn't sound good. But no, I still hope to sit down and talk football with him one day. So Ben Johnson and I are going back to North Carolina in the offseason. We're going to hang out with him. Yeah, I know. Ben's got to get me in.
Real quick, J-Mo mentioned last week that you guys have kind of grown pretty tight over the past couple seasons, like to mess around with each other. I know he's been in your ear a bunch about returning punts, but aside from that, what have you grown to appreciate about him? Do you have a man crush on J-Mo as well?
No, I think I love all the players, to be honest with you. I really do. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for players. This is why you coach, is to be around them and try to help them out. I just know that J-Mo is a guy who he was playing at Alabama, and he gave himself up for the good of the team by playing on special teams when he probably didn't have to. I know that's a lot of Nick Saban's doing too, and that's kind of what they do there. But the guy's a competitor, man, and he loves playing. And he's not unlike like all of us, or at least like myself. He's had his ups and downs, and he's probably taken his wrong turns. And I think that, you're rooting for guys to end up finding their way, grow up, use this game as an avenue to get to some place that they probably never would have been. I know certainly for myself. I tell people all the time, I can't believe I'm here. It's just a blessing. This game's been the biggest blessing in my life. And so you enjoy seeing players have a chance to use this game as an avenue to get more out of themselves than maybe they would have gotten without it, and maybe it helps them grow up. So for me, it's really just been the process of watching him mature and grow and learn from his mistakes. But this game's really provided him an opportunity to do that, and yeah, I love the way he plays the game. I love what the game means to him. He's shown that by how he operates at practice, how fast he practices, how fast he plays in the game, the fact that he wants to go back there and return punts. You know what I mean? So I would